last video in the series 50 and 50. Huge thanks to everybody who made suggestions along the way. Over the last 49 days, 40,000 words and something like 7 hours of video on animal health topics. A little bit different to finish off today, but it wouldn't have happened without the support of Netix, Protein, Remenco. And huge thanks to you guys, and I'm looking forward to doing animal health training with you over the coming months in both Ireland and the UK. I suppose my last topic is this idea of leadership, something different to finish off the series with, because I suppose agriculture is such an exciting industry to work in, and I'm really passionate about, particularly with young people coming into agriculture, this idea of leadership and how we can inspire the next generation of people who are going to take on the challenges that agriculture faces. And agriculture, as people will, I think people are reconnecting a little bit again with food and how important food supply is to them as a core essential in our everyday lives, and how important agriculture is. And it's not about tanks for, looking for tanks, but it's about, just recognizing how important it is, and for people working in the industry, how exciting the industry is and the potential that's there in the future, and how important the work that you do is. And for me, I suppose when I talk about leadership, people think about politicians and people running companies. But my own personal experience is, if you can engage with leadership, it's very, very powerful. And these are just some of the lessons, and this is only my experience, that I've learned along the way when I think about leadership. So here they are, 12 lessons, something a little bit different on my last video blog. Number one for me is learning. And I caught this bug a good few years ago, and if you want to catch any bug, it's the best bug to catch, because it keeps you inquisitive, it keeps you interested, it keeps you wanting to know more. And particularly young people coming into agriculture, we need innovation, we need people who want to learn, who want to challenge, who want to look at, who see the challenges out there and want to create solutions and think differently. And we only can do that by really engaging with learning, in my experience. Number two is failure, and I've had plenty of it over my career, but I would just say to people, don't be defined by failure. It really is part of life. We all make mistakes. It's how we respond to those mistakes is the key thing, but certainly don't be defined by failure. Number three is keep things simple. So anything I do in communication or animal health, I always try and think about things fundamentally in a simple way, simple but no simpler, which is hard to do. When we overcomplicate things, we make things very difficult for people to understand, and always try and look for the simple solutions if you can at all. Number four for me is be passionate. I mean, agriculture is such an exciting industry, and I'm only really realizing this over the last couple of years of how exciting the potential that's there around food supply, and the role that we play in human health in the food production system. And I think I've met lots of people who are so passionate about what they do, and they really have inspired me along the way in my sort of journey. So I think everybody, if you don't have to love every minute of every day that of work that you're doing, but if your overarching team is passionate about what you do, it truly is infectious. Number five is focus. And again, in agriculture, I suppose we've lots of challenges. We've got to focus on what's ahead of us. We've got to focus on what we need to do, and focus is a really key skill, I think, that I need to get better on myself. But it is so important to focus on what's important, focus on what needs to be done. Number six is attitude. Again, this is a lesson I probably learned along the way. And again, between stimulus and response, there's a space. Now, with all the stuff that's going on around us, there's very little of it we actually can control. But we can control one thing, and that's our response and our attitude. And try and make it a good one. Number seven is have a little bit of fun. Life is short, and we often hear that we hear that too often. So have a little bit of fun along the way. I believe I can do serious work without taking myself too seriously. Number eight is empathy. And again, what a time we need to have empathy more than ever, not just in agriculture but across the board. Empathy for me is just about understanding the people I work with, work for, see the world as they see it, put myself in their shoes. And it's a good rule to apply in any difficult situation with anybody, is just put yourself in their shoes, see the world as they see it, and maybe get a better understanding for anybody. Number nine is gratitude. Often we look across the fence to see what we don't have, and we fail to recognize maybe all the things we do have. And for me, it's a very useful tool every so often as a grounding, just to say, oh, actually this is what I do have, and be thankful for it. Number 10, I could write a book on this one. Take a few risks along the way, challenge yourself a little bit, do a video series, get a green screen, try things out differently. And certainly to young people in agriculture, I think we'll need people to take risks, we'll need people to innovate, and it can be difficult to get outside your comfort zone. It can be difficult to step above the parapet. It can be difficult to do things like, as a vet, talk about leadership. You're not supposed to talk about that. But I want it, that's what I'm about, and I think I'll take some risks along the way. They won't always work out, but you'll learn along the way. So for me, I tell people, get outside your comfort zone, take a few risks. Second last one for me, and this takes a while and it's difficult to do, but we're all unique. So if you can figure out what you're good at, figure out who you are, the easiest person to be is yourself, and that's an important lesson. Finally, I suppose agriculture is all about people, and we're all learning and all thinking maybe a bit like myself how important just the simple things are, and family and friends are really key to that. So family and friends first. And I sometimes I'm a bit like a cobbler with a hole in his own shoes, but I'm not saying I get these things right. I'm always trying to learn and improve. So there are some of my lessons in leadership, a little bit different for the last video in the series of 50 vlogs in 50 days, but it's an area I'm very passionate about, and I think even though I'm involved in animal health, I think leadership can be applied across the board, all across agriculture, and to young people coming in. These are some of my lessons, and it's an exciting industry. So that's it. A huge thanks to Netix Pro Gene Romenko again for this support in putting this series together. And finally, for the last video series, most importantly, happy safe farming to everybody, and take care.